Since we stopped yesterday in mid-sentence, so today I'll go back a little bit. Let's go back to Ois Dalid. That's on page Tes, line 20, towards the bottom of the page. And primarily, we answered the first question of the Maimer. It's the fifth page of the copies. We answered the first question of the Maimer was about why does it go from Soda to Heichal Malchusay. When we're going about extremes, we should be talking about all the way the extremes. We're talking about the king going in all the way to Heichal Malchusay. And then, if it's going in all the way to Heichal Malchusay, so we should go to the extremes where it came from the Midbar. So we explained, no, that's not the main thing. The main thing is not the Midbar. The Midbar has no shaykhis with the Melech. The Melech only goes over there to defeat the enemies, just like the Arim, when it went in the Midbar, was only there to defeat the enemies of Nusum, Sanacham, Panecha, etc., like we say by Ibn Sayah Arim. But Midbar is not a place, Asher Yoshev Adam Sham, it has no place for a Jewish person, and therefore it's nothing. It's not only Adam is not there, even Tzarchei Adam is not there, whereas the field, even though the Adam doesn't really live in the field, he lives in the city, but the Tzarchei Adam comes from the field, and even the king needs to have the field for his service. That's why the king will come into the field, but he doesn't come in for a productive reason into the Midbar. Now we're going to address another question that the Maimer posed, and that's the idea of Roya. That the pasuk, the end of the pasuk that talks about Haroya B'Shoshanim, the one that goes to pasture amongst the roses, is talking about the relationship of Hashem and the Yidden like a shepherd with his flock. And we said, seemingly, there's a deeper and greater relationship, the relationship between a father and a son. We say that the Yidden are Hashem is to us as a father, and we are to him as a son. And then the pasuk or the expression goes on that he's a shepherd to our flock. Why does the pasuk in Shir Hashirim choose to speak about this idea of shepherding when it could instead be talking about a deeper level, a more important level? Should be speaking about the concept of father and son. So we already started learning this yesterday. We got stuck, we stopped right in the middle of the concept. I was a bit overwhelmed by the fact that I went over time. Let's start again from the beginning of the Maimer addressing this question. Ois Daled, fifth page of the Maimer, line 20. Mamsh because the apostle continues, parenthetically he brings in Ani לדודי ודודי לי, but the main emphasis on the word Haroya, the one that goes out to graze, goes out to pasture. בשושנים, amongst the roses. Again, that's parenthetical. The main question is, because of on the word haroya, why is grazing over here an inyan? The idea of grazing is specifically in the field and not in the city. And it's applicable specifically with sheep. In other words, it has two chesroinus. One thing is, it's only a field type of thing. True, the king comes through the field, he's greeted in the field, he's not in a place of a wilderness, but it's not on the same higher level like a city. In addition to that, there's also the idea of being the sheep. So, Shebahem, the explanation for that is that because they are sheep, this has a very great benefit. Shebehem da yesh no bitl poshet yoser masher bitl ben la'av sheyachlias befanim shoynim. By sheep, the sheep's relationship to man, especially to its shepherd, is much more bitl that's possible to be than by a son to his father, because a son to his father can be in many different ways. The connection between a father and a son is through the idea of love, like we see in actuality. That's also why we see in the word love, ahava, it has aleph and beis separated by the hey. But this idea that the letter hey is in between, the main thing is that we're saying that the core is aleph and beis are hinted over there. It's a hint. It's not the shoyrish or anything like that, but it's a hint. So that shows that the relationship of a father and a child is a love-based relationship. Now he's going to say it's more than love. It's a deeper thing. We know in the koiches hanefesh there is the idea of love, ahava. That's one of the koiches pnimium. Then there's something higher than that. There are the koiches makifim. The koiches makifim is rotzen, will, and tainug. Now you were telling me a geschmack word about ahava from the word av. Let's look at the real connection that's brought down for the more pashut connection that the word ahava has, and that is va'av she'ahava. Top of the next page. Miloshen ava is from the word want, shu'in rotzen. So it's a level of will. A level of will is a very, very high level. It's not just like ahava, which is the koiches pnimium, and therefore limited in its fashion, but it is actually from the koiches makifim, which shows on a much stronger connection. So since ahava is the connection between a father and his son, between an av and ben, and ahava is the idea of rotzain, the will. So therefore, it's a very great level. Why are you telling me that the sheep is bittul is a very powerful bittul? So he says, in top first line on page Yud, Harezehu rotzen kifishu b'tziur shel midas ha'ahava. This is will, true. Ahava is from the word ava, meaning rotzen. But it's a rotzen the way it's already formed in the midah of love, but in the midah of love, ela shezohi ava atzmis, this is a love of the essence. In other words, as follows: there is love. A person can love another person or another thing in a very superficial way. Definitely, that's not the love between a father and a son. A father and a son is a love of the essence. It's not based on anything, like the Pirkei Avos uses the term ava she'tluya b'davar. It's not an ava she'tluya b'davar. It's not a love that's dependent upon anything. Therefore, it's understood that the will that's encased in that love, that's the deeper connection of that love, is obviously of a very powerful sort, because it's an ava atzmis. But it's still a will that comes through the form of love. Will can manifest itself in different ways. Will doesn't always have to be in a way of love. The fact that this is coming about in a way of love, that is indicative that we're talking here about a type of will that is already to a certain degree formed and limited in some type of way. Okay, so the father and son's relationship, even though it's an ava atzmis, even though it has to do with the koyach of rotzen, but it's rotzen the way it already comes into the formation of love, it has already a certain type of limitation. Contrast that with the sheep. So he says, line 3, Mashenkein roya hu oisius rava. Roya, shepherd, is from the word rava. Again, this is a Chassidus type of Kabbalah type of connection. Rava is Aramaic for will. So, just like we said, ahava has to do with love, it has to do with rotzen from the word ava, but that's rotzen the way it already became defined in the level of love. Roya is higher than that. It's the will itself. Shu inyan harotzen rava. Elo shezeu kifi she'inyan harotzen hu baloshen targum. It's the way will comes down in a lashon of translation of Aramaic. So one might think that means it's even lower. Ava is lashon kodesh. Ava is lashon kodesh. So he's saying just the opposite. He's saying line 6. The very fact that's coming down the expression of Targum, and there's Dakov, Ruach, it's in such a way that Hashem says that the one who is low and is small of spirit and low of spirit, one who is pressed and low of spirit, that who Hashem is with. That on this it says that exalted and holy I rest, that the holiness and exaltedness of Hashem rests specifically in the lowest. So specifically in the idea of the Lashon Targum, that this is in a lower level. Over there we have the higher will expressed. In our case it means because of the sheep's bittul is a greater state of bittul than a bittul of a son to a father. Only through the bittul does the person reach the Hashem's very essence. That's the order of the matters in the Medrash. This is an expression that we spoke about. That expression is found in the Medrash, that he, Hashem, is from me as a father, and I am for him like a son. Not he's decreasing, he's not going lower. First, he's talking about the relationship of a father and son. Then he talks about a shepherd and sheep. No, he's going higher, the Medrash. He begins first in a father-son relationship, and then he goes to a higher level. He is for me as a shepherd, and I am for him as sheep. Because of the bittul of sheep, we reach the level of essence the way it is on its own. Higher than the connection that Hashem has with us in the way of a father. The bittul of sheep, which is a greater bittul in the child to the father, reaches a higher aspect of Hashem that is deeper and higher than our relationship with Him as a child has to their father. So the Rebbe continues in line 16. Concerning this, it says, the one who goes out to pasture amongst the roses. So concerning the going out to graze, to pasture in the field, when one goes out to the field to graze their sheep, so there's the idea of grass, like we have this in Krishna. I will put grass in the field for your animals. So there's a very basic type of grazing, not a luxurious type of grazing which the roses indicate. Over here in this pasuk it says that they go out to graze amongst the roses, dafka, specifically that. The Shoshana yesh but place at alim, because a rose has 13 petals. Like we said, it corresponds to the 13 attributes of mercy that are higher than Seder Ishtalshalos. This is located in Keser. That they become revealed on Rosh Chodesh El, like we said, that during the month of Elul, it's the time of the revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy. So the Rebbe now explains a very interesting thing. There are 3 different variations in the Gilui of Yud Gimel Sarachim, based on the different times of the year that we have it. First of all, in daily davening, in a day that we have Tachnun, we say the Yud Gimel Sarachim, Hashem, Hashem, Kelrach V'chan, Erech B'anav Ches V'emes. That is obviously a time of revelation of Yud Gimel Sarachim. We also know Yom Kippur like the Alter Rebbe asks in the original Lidodi Maimer, Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, is a revelation of Yud Gimel Sarachmim. That's why there's a lot of recitation of Yud Gimel Sarachmim during Yom Kippur davening. And then there's what we know from the B'rei Chaim that says that the entire month of Elul is a revelation of Yud Gimel Sarachmim. So the Rebbe is going to explain the different aspects of these three types of revelation of Yud Gimel Sarachmim. So let's see line 21. The idea behind this is in the 13 attributes of mercy itself, there are three types, three categories, three ways. Because throughout the entire year we do say the Yud Gimel Sarachmim and Tachnu, we mentioned the 13 attributes of mercy. That is only the level of the Yud Gimel Sarachmim, the way they are in the external level of Malchus. In the month of Elul shines the 13 attributes of mercy, the way they're in the inner level of Malchus Datzilus. The difference is the external level of Malchus Datzilus, the level the way it comes into the world. The inner level of Malchus Datzilus is the way it's united with the spheres above. It's beyond and higher in the world. And that level that's beyond and outside of this world, that's what becomes revealed in the month of El. In a practical sense, what is the function of the awakening of the 13 attributes of mercy during the rest of the year? That's asking Hashem to have compassion and mercy for our physical needs, for our bodily needs. Top of page Yud, the 13 attributes of mercy that shine in the month of Elul. We're asking Hashem's mercy and compassion, and we're drawing down Hashem's mercy and compassion on our soul life, on our spiritual matters, on our spiritual closeness to Hashem, and so on. How come? Just like we said before, since the revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy throughout the entire year is from the level of the external part of Malchus that's called the body, the Kaviyachal body of Hashem, the external part of Hashem, deals with our externals, our level of body. Then it's the revelation during El of the 13 attributes of mercy to the life of the neshama. That's from the inner level of Malchus Datzilus. Why? Because neshama is the inner part, the holier part, the spiritual part, the part that's more connected above. Now, this is all explaining the difference between throughout the year and El. Malchus has different names that it's called throughout the Kabbalah, Chassidus liken it to. Malchus is called field. Just like a field makes food grow and sustenance grow, etc. The same thing, Malchus is mashpia and tabia. It's also the field is likened to the earth, Shemayim and Aretz. So Melech Basada has to do with the level of Malchus. And it's a higher level of Malchus than the level of Malchus that we have throughout the year. Well, the Mailam Azeh, the third highest level of Yud Gimel Sarachmim is those are what's drawn down and become revealed on Yom Kippur. That's the way Malchus goes up all the way to its original source. Keser Malchus, the level of Keser. And that is the level of the utmost highest level. And other places the Rebbe says that's where forgiveness comes from. The day of Yom Kippur is the day of forgiveness, and that's where Slicha and Kapara come from, all the way from the level of Keser. That is one concept of the idea of the Shoshanim, that he doesn't say Haroya amongst the Asavim, amongst the grass, but the emphasis specifically Shoshanim, the roses, to indicate this idea of the 13 attributes of mercy during Mizarach. Another idea that's explained in the exact type of thing of choosing roses instead of the normal thing that an animal grazes amongst the grass. The Shoshana eina shayeches le'inyan achila. Roses is not meant for normal eating, for normal food consumption, at least for a human being. It's not made from roses. She'ikra b'shvil haguf, the idea of eating is primarily for the sake of the body, to strengthen the body. Elahu inyan ha'refuah shu inayla yoser minyan achila. Roses is the idea of healing, that it's much higher than eating. Just like medicine is something that has a greater power than food. Food is meant to sustain the body when everything is working fine and everything is working okay. But when things are not working well, so then we need to have special herbs, special types of things, which are symbolized by Shoshana. Shoshana shows on something that's beyond eating, so that is much more powerful than normal food. The ikra lifa neshama, and it's primarily to affect the soul, because refuah beruchnius is something that the soul needs to receive. But since by Yid the soul is connected with the body and it manifests itself in the body, and also the body is a holy body, so this affects a healing gamba guf. So it's not just the neshama's spiritual healing, that grazing amongst the roses, that the roses have this power to be able to create a spiritual healing for the neshama, but it also brings a physical healing in the body. This is connected and associated with the month of Elul. In the month of Elul, there has to be the avoid of tshuva. Tshuva, not a foot. Tshuva is the idea of healing. Chazal say, greatest tshuva that brings healing to the world. Line 21, so now he sums it up. This is where it says, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me the one who goes to graze amongst the roses. That's the idea of the month of El. That in the month of El, the 13 attributes of mercy is revealed, like it's hinted in the rose that has 13 petals, hints at the 13 attributes of mercy. What takes place in the month of Elul before Tishrei, that's only the way the king comes down into the field. But that's not the ultimate. The ultimate is what the Alter Rebbe says afterwards in the famous mashal. We should follow him all the way into the city to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Afterwards we come to the ultimate revelation, to the perfect and complete revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy, until we come to Ne'ilah davening. Then the Yidden find themselves with the king, that I and the king are all alone. There's only the Yidden and Hashem. No one else may enter the Kodesh HaKadoshim except for a Yid. Even the Malachim, the Chazal say, we're not allowed into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Top of the last page. From this unity and great revelation and powerful Shlosh Esrei Mitzarachim takes place on Yom Kippur, comes down afterwards the joy in Shmini Atzeres Torah, which is also Shmini Atzeres, the time when Hashem and the Yidden are alone, as opposed to the 70 Parim that were brought beforehand. And all this is afterwards brought down for the entire year. In the footnote it says that the conclusion of the Maimer is missing, but this looks like already like the Bracha part.